Elliot stood frozen in his living room, the soft buzz of his doorbell ringing in his ears like a distant drum. His heart raced, his mind still tangled with Lana's words. "I love you, Elliot." He couldn't shake the image of her face when she had said it, so soft, so vulnerable, as if she had given him everything. She hadn't waited for him to respond, hadn't given him the chance to understand what was happening. But now, the silence of the room felt heavy, like the weight of a question he didn't have the answer to. The doorbell rang again, pulling him back to the present. He stood there, staring at the door as if it held the answers to everything. He had been on the edge of something so deep, so real. And now he was about to step into a world that felt entirely different. With a slow breath, Elliot walked to the door and opened it, forcing a smile onto his face. He needed to focus. He needed to forget the confusion Lana had left behind. Mia was waiting. Mia was standing on the doorstep, smiling brightly, her eyes full of warmth. She was dressed in a simple, elegant dress, her hair styled perfectly. Elliot felt a pang of guilt. She was here for him, but his mind was somewhere else. Somewhere a little to the left of her. "Hi," Mia said, her voice warm and inviting. "You ready?" Yeah, just give me a second," Elliot replied, trying to shake off the weight of Lana's words. He couldn't allow himself to think about it. Not now. They left the house together, and as they walked through the quiet streets of Willowbrook, Elliot tried to push everything aside. Mia was talking about the local play that was showing, telling him how she'd always wanted to see it. He nodded along, pretending to be interested, his mind still clouded with uncertainty. As they reached the theater, Elliot realized he hadn't even thought about what he was doing. He hadn't truly prepared for this date. He hadn't been ready to face Mia or anyone else. But Lana's confession had made him realize something. He wasn't just unsure about dating. He was unsure about everything. What if he wasn't ready for anything at all? The play was as good as Mia had promised. The lights, the music, the actors, all of it was beautiful, but Elliot couldn't focus. His mind kept drifting back to Lana. The words she had said echoed in his head. "Why don't you see I love you?" The evening passed slowly, and when the play ended, Mia suggested they go for coffee. Elliot agreed, his thoughts still wandering far from the conversation they were having. Mia looked at him as they sat down at a small cafe, her brow furrowed in concern. "You've been quiet all night," she said softly. "Are you okay?" Elliot blinked, snapping back to the present. He realized just how distant he had been. How could he explain the storm inside him? How could he tell Mia that he wasn't sure what he was doing? That his heart was somewhere else entirely? "I'm sorry, Mia," he said quietly. I guess I'm a little distracted," she smiled gently. "I get it. Sometimes we all have a lot on our minds." Elliot couldn't help but feel the distance between them grow. Mia was kind, understanding, and beautiful, but he wasn't sure if that was enough. He wasn't sure if he was being fair to her, to himself. As the night wore on, Elliot felt himself becoming more and more uncomfortable. He wanted to enjoy the moment with Mia, but it felt like his heart was being pulled in two directions, one toward her and the other toward Lana, his neighbor, who had unexpectedly opened up to him in a way no one else ever had. Later that evening, as they said goodbye outside the cafe, Mia gave him a warm hug. "It was nice getting to know you better," she said, her voice full of warmth, though Elliot could hear the quiet disappointment in it. "Yeah, it was great," Elliot replied, offering a half-smile. "Thanks for tonight." She paused, as if weighing something in her mind, and then kissed him lightly on the cheek before walking away. Elliot stood there staring after her for a long moment, wondering what was wrong with him. Why couldn't he just let go? Why did he feel like there was something more? Something waiting for him? Something that he hadn't fully understood? As he walked back home, Elliot's steps were slow, the weight of the evening settling on his shoulders. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what he wanted. When he arrived at his door, he saw the faint glow of light coming from the window of Lana's house next door. His heart beat faster. He hadn't talked to her since she had confessed her feelings, since the moment she had told him she loved him. He walked up the steps and knocked softly on her door, unsure of what to say or what to expect. Lana opened it after a moment, her eyes tired but still warm. She looked surprised to see him, but quickly masked her shock with a gentle smile. "Elliot," she said softly, her voice almost hesitant. "I didn't expect to see you tonight. I needed to talk," he said, his words sounding uncertain even to him. Lana stepped aside, letting him in. The familiar scent of her house, freshly baked bread, lavender, and books, wrapped around him like a blanket. It was strange to feel so at home and yet so lost at the same time. They sat on the couch, and for a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence between them felt heavy, laden with everything that had been left unsaid. Finally, Elliot broke the silence. "Lana, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to respond earlier. I didn't expect—" He paused, his voice shaking slightly. "I didn't know how to process what you said." Lana nodded, her eyes soft but unreadable. "I didn't mean to make things awkward, Elliot. I know we've always been friends, and I didn't want to ruin that." "No," Elliot said quickly. I don't want to lose our friendship. But I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I feel like I'm confused about everything." Lana's gaze softened. "It's okay to be confused. It's okay not to know what to feel. You don't have to make any decisions right now." Elliot swallowed, his heart heavy with the weight of everything. "But I don't want to hurt you, Lana. I don't want to hurt anyone." She looked at him, her expression a mix of sadness and understanding. "Elliot, you're not hurting me. Not yet, at least." His breath caught in his chest. "Not yet?" The words felt like a weight, but Lana wasn't done. "You have to figure out what you really want, Elliot. And I'll be here, whatever that is. But don't be afraid of what you're feeling. I'll wait for you, as long as you need." Her words hit him like a wave, and for the first time in his life, Elliot realized that he wasn't alone in his confusion. Lana had always been there, waiting, understanding, and offering him something he hadn't known he needed: patience. He took a deep breath, his chest tight with emotions he wasn't sure how to express. The truth was, he didn't have all the answers. He didn't know what he wanted right now. But he knew one thing. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of the questions anymore. Cliffhanger. As Elliot stood up to leave, his heart heavy with the weight of Lana's words, he looked at her one last time. Her eyes held a quiet strength, and in that moment he knew, whatever happened, this was just the beginning. But where would it take him? He stepped outside, the cool night air wrapping around him like a reminder that things were changing. The night felt endless, filled with the promise of something yet to come. It was a crisp evening in the small, sleepy town of Willowbrook. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone else's name, where the streets were lined with tall trees that whispered in the wind, and where nothing ever truly felt urgent. The sun was dipping behind the hills, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. In a small house on Maple Street, Elliot stood in front of the mirror, his hand hovering over the buttons of his shirt, unsure of how to finish dressing. Tonight was important. Tonight he was going on a date. For weeks he had been speaking with Mia, a woman he'd met at the library. She was bright, charming, and kind, with eyes that seemed to see right through him. Elliot had always been shy, awkward even, around women, but there was something about Mia that made him want to be better, more confident, more daring. He had convinced himself that tonight would be different. Tonight he was going to step outside his comfort zone and finally act like the person he thought he should be. As he stood there in the hallway of his modest house, his mind raced. Was the shirt too much? Too little? Did his hair look okay? He had never been good at this, at looking put together. He had always been the type to keep to himself, to lose himself in books and thoughts. But now, standing in front of the mirror, he realized how unprepared he truly was. His heart was pounding as he tugged at the collar, trying to adjust it just right. Suddenly, a voice called out from the open window in the living room. "Elliot, are you okay in there?" It was Lana, his neighbor and friend. Elliot paused. Lana had always been there, right next door, ever since he'd moved into the neighborhood a few years ago. She was a few years older than him, and while they weren't particularly close, they had shared a few moments of conversation and kindness over the years. She was always there, always nearby when he needed something. They had a quiet understanding, a connection that neither of them fully acknowledged but both silently appreciated. "Yeah, I'm fine," Elliot replied, trying to sound casual, though his voice betrayed his nerves. "Just getting ready." There was a pause, and then Lana's voice softened, as though she knew something was off. "Do you need help with anything?" Elliot stared at his reflection for a long moment. His heart fluttered. Maybe it was silly, but he wanted her opinion. Not because he wanted to impress her, but because there was something comforting about her presence, something grounding. "Actually, could you take a look? I'm not sure about this shirt," he called back, stepping out into the living room. Lana entered from the kitchen, wearing a simple, cozy sweater and jeans. Her brown hair was loosely tied up in a ponytail, and she had that soft, warm smile that always made Elliot feel a little less alone. She studied him for a moment, her eyes scanning him in a way that made him feel vulnerable. "You look fine, Elliot," she said, her voice gentle. He frowned, tugging at the hem of his shirt. "But do I look okay? It's just, I've never really done this before. Going on dates, I mean. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right." Lana's smile softened, and she walked a little closer, her gaze steady. "You're nervous," she observed. "Yeah, I guess," he admitted, feeling a rush of embarrassment flood his face. He hated how easily she could read him. "It's okay to be nervous," she said with a small laugh. "It's normal. Just be yourself." Elliot chuckled nervously, running a hand through his hair. "I wish I could believe that. I'm not good at this kind of thing. I mean, what if I mess it up?" Lana gave him a knowing look, her eyes kind and patient. "You won't mess it up, but I think you're not really asking about the date, are you?" Elliot blinked, his heart skipping a beat. He wasn't sure what she meant. "What do you mean?" Lana paused, looking down for a moment before meeting his gaze again. "I think you're asking if you look okay, but what you really want to know is if she'll like you, right?" He swallowed, a lump forming in his throat. The words stung more than he expected. How had she known what was really bothering him? I guess," Elliot said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just don't want to screw it up, you know? I want to get it right." Lana's eyes softened, a quiet sadness settling in them. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but then hesitated, her expression clouded with something Elliot couldn't quite place. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "Elliot, why don't you see it?" she said. "You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to try so hard. You already have everything you need." Elliot looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Lana sighed, stepping back slightly. She fidgeted with the sleeves of her sweater, her gaze dropping to the floor. For a moment, the room felt unnaturally silent, as if the world had slowed. Then, with a trembling breath, she said, "I love you, Elliot." The words hung in the air, heavy and startling. Elliot felt as if the ground had shifted beneath him, his breath catching in his chest. He blinked several times, unable to fully comprehend what had just been said. Love? Lana? She loved him? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. His mind raced, his thoughts a blur. Was this some kind of joke? Or did she really mean it? His heart beat faster, each pulse louder in his ears as he tried to grasp the reality of what was happening. Lana's smile faltered when she saw the confusion on his face. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. It's just, I've always been here, for you, and I don't want you to be someone else for her or anyone. You're enough as you are." Elliot stood there, frozen, caught in the whirlwind of emotions swirling in his chest. His mind screamed at him to say something, to reassure her, but the words felt trapped. He wanted to tell her he didn't know what to say, that he wasn't prepared for this moment, but before he could speak, she turned and walked towards the door. "I'm sorry, Elliot. I didn't mean to make it awkward," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Go on your date. You'll be fine." He watched her go, his heart aching, his thoughts tangled in confusion. Did he love her too, or was he just scared of what her words meant? Either way, he couldn't deny the heaviness in his chest. The way his world suddenly seemed different, more fragile, more uncertain. As he stood there in the dim light of his living room, the quiet of the evening wrapping around him, Elliot realized that nothing in his life would ever be the same again. He had thought he was ready for the date, but now he wasn't sure of anything anymore.